I'm 17 but look much younger, maybe 13 or 14 at most. Today I was at the grocery store and went and got some food from the salad bar to sit down. As I'm eating, shoveling food into my mouth at the speed of light, some dude with a food container sits down across from me without saying anything. The table was pretty small, so it was definitely weird that he just sat down without asking. He was maybe 32 to 35 years old, Asian, 5'10"-ish, and wasn't unattractive or anything. But I was immediately on my guard. He had this weird vibe. I don't know how to explain it other than it was exactly what you picture when you hear stranger danger. As soon as he sits down across from me, he says, "So, is your mom around?" Now, my mom was doing the grocery shopping, and I thought it was weird he knew I was here with my mom. I mean, why not my dad or my grandma or something? I realized he must have been watching me earlier when I was with my mother. I just replied, "Yeah, she's coming," as casually as possible, and didn't look up from my phone. I could tell he was kind of confused because I didn't say anything else and continued scrolling on my phone like everything was normal. After a minute or two, he says, "This food reminds me of when I used to go to ski camp," which was really random and weird, so I just said, "Yeah, it's pretty good," while going on my phone and continued ignoring him. At this point, he was, I think, a bit confused on how to proceed with the conversation. For a while, he was just staring at me creepily as I continued eating, and I tried to make myself look as gross and unappealing as possible by chewing with my mouth open, slurping my water, etc., and I think he was beginning to regret coming over to me. I was getting a really weird vibe from him, so I played a sound on my phone to make it sound like it was ringing and pretended to answer it and talk to my mom. While I'm on the phone, he would not stop staring at me. He eventually asked what grade I'm in, and I ignored him. Right around then, by pure coincidence, my mom comes over and we get ready to leave. She was talking to someone on her cell phone, so I couldn't tell her right away what was going on. But we got ready to go and she accidentally dropped her change. Immediately, this dude lets out the most hysterical, maniacal, clown-like cackle I've ever heard and is rocking back and forth on the chair laughing like an absolute freaking lunatic. My mom didn't even notice because she was on the phone. As we walk out the door, I turn around, and he's still laughing loudly to himself at that table, banging on the table with his fists and cackling like I've never seen anyone do before. I got out of there real quick, and I hope that I never see that dude again. This happened back when I was still in high school, so I was about 16. My friends at the time, Jack and Dan and I, would often skip the class or two in favor of hanging out at one of their places, or cruising around in the old school muscle car that Jack had fixed up with his dad. One day we swung by a grocery store that had a place in the back that made pretty good Chinese food, and that sounded like it would hit the spot right now. We'd parked, browsed the aisles a little, and picked up some good sodas as our orders were being prepared. The three of us paid, and on the way out I told him I had to take a leak, giving my bags to Jack to look after. The bathrooms were usually at least fair on the cleanliness scale, but I guess that day someone was asleep at the wheel, or no one had bothered to notify the staff of the mess inside. I was, and still somewhat am, shy while peeing, so I like to use the stalls when able. The handicapped stall's toilet was filled to the brim with murky brown water and toilet paper, more wet paper clinging to almost every surface within 2 feet of the toilet. Yeah, no. The stall next to it was worse. Someone had been finger painting in there. Seriously, who does this shit? The final stall I checked, the one closest to the door, had urine all over the seat and some on the floor, as well as some brown smudges and damp toilet paper on the seat. But I figured I didn't have to touch any of that. I just used some clean paper to lift the seat, wiped my hands thoroughly, and then did my business before flushing and leaving the seat up, not wanting to give anyone that might come in the idea that I had left the seat down and pissed all over it. Unfortunately, that's exactly what had happened. Enter the homeless man. He had the long, dark, matted hair and a matching beard. His face was almost completely hidden. He wore the typical hobo garb, dirt-covered coat, slightly torn jeans, worn sneakers that might have been white at some point, and frayed fingerless gloves. I gave him a small smile and polite nod as he shuffled past, giving me no more than a quick glance. I was washing my hands by the time he reached the stall he had seen me come out of. I heard him huff and grumble a little bit before he backed out of the stall and growled, "Nice," at me. I tensed and looked over to him. He was nodding in thanks a lot kind of way, gesturing into the stall as his eyes glared at me between his thick, coarse beard and his bushy eyebrows. Being the extremely awkward and non-confrontational teen that I was, all I could muster was a somewhat spastic, "That wasn't me." Totally convincing. "This wasn't you?" he rumbled, his voice suggesting he was somewhere between confused and furious as he pointed at the soiled toilet. I shook my head, staring wide-eyed at him before quickly rinsing my hands and stepping over to the paper towels. I could see him out of the corner of my eye, still looking at either me or the stall and grumbling under his breath. I was almost done drying my hands when I heard him stomping up behind me. I whipped around and saw him reaching out with his left hand. I initially thought he was reaching to grab some paper towels, but his hand clapped down on my shoulder, his right hand swinging up until his fist was pressing painfully into my chest. He had one of those foldable knives with the serrated edge hovering just above my neck. "You little bastard," he spat through his teeth, his face red with anger. "You think you can treat me like shit just because I live in my car? Just because I'm dirty, huh?" He roared, getting louder with each sentence. Honestly, I think I would have pissed myself back then had I not just taken care of that. All I could do was stare at him with the classic deer in the headlights look, standing on my tiptoes and trying to press my back into the tile wall behind me to avoid contact with his knife. I wanted to explain that the seat was already dirty when I came in, and that I wouldn't want to clean up some inconsiderate asshole's mess either. Again, words escaped me, and all that came out of me was squeaking, "Please, please don't hurt me." I started to blubber, unable to stop the tears from welling up and running down my face. I guess this shameful display moved him to take pity on me, taking his hand off my shoulder, but he pressed his fist harder into my chest, causing me to let out a choked cry as I closed my eyes and leaned my head back, waiting to feel the blade slide across my throat. I felt him lean in, his foul breath on my face as he whispered, "Next time, I'll make you lick it up." The pressure was removed from my chest so suddenly I almost fell on my face, but I caught myself, spun around, and ran without looking back. My friends were talking and leaning against the car when I came tearing out of the store. They chuckled at first, asking if I had fallen in, but quickly realized that I was in distress. I told them everything that had happened. Jack, being almost like a protective big brother to me, stormed inside and notified the store's employees. The police were called and ended up catching the homeless man as he sat in his car, parked in the grocery store parking lot. They had cuffed him in the back of their cruiser as they questioned me a few times. I kept glancing over nervously. He never took his eyes off me, staring daggers at me until they took him into the station. He apparently had a few priors of aggressive behavior, but had never pulled a weapon before today. I did feel kind of sorry for him. I have a soft spot for the less fortunate, and despite him coming within inches of cutting my throat, I felt bad that he had become such an angry person due to his situation, and it was now getting him deeper and deeper into trouble. I don't know what happened to him after that. My friends and I avoided that store and the area around it for the rest of the time that I lived in that state. Jack offered to let me drive on the way to his place, seeing as I asked him almost every day to get behind the wheel. But I told him that I didn't think it was a good idea right now. My hands were still shaking a little. Right, he said awkwardly. We sat in silence during the drive, and while we ate, turning on the TV for some background noise. Things did pick up as time passed, and it was a decent night after that. I felt a little better as weeks went by, but ever since I've had the habit of wiping down the seats of any public toilet I use, even if it's not my mess. I can just wash my hands after. To the homeless man that accused me of looking down on him, pinned me to the wall of a grocery store bathroom, and held a knife to my throat. I hope I didn't make life too much harder for you, and I hope that you're doing well. But just in case you still hold a grudge and possess that knife, I think it's best for both of us that we don't meet again. I wasn't on Reddit back in 2015, but boy, this story is still fresh in my mind. I used to work as a vendor for a snack company. Basically, I would go service several different grocery stores in a region and stock the shelves, do the displays, and run promotions. At one of the grocery stores, I met this guy who stocked groceries. I forgot how we exactly began talking, but he would stock the paper towels behind me, which had happened to be in the same snack aisle. We worked side by side for a few months until he began talking to me, but he would always stare and walk by me extremely close. It began as small talk. He seemed nice and actually was fine to casually talk to. I'm a good listener, so he would complain to me about how lazy all his coworkers were. I told him I work independently and can't relate. Soon he would ask details about my work. I thought he wanted a job and I can recruit him for a bonus. I told him what I did exactly in the stores I would service. This is where things took a turn for the worst. He would coincidentally show up to the stores I would service. At first he played it off like, "Oh, I didn't know you worked here at this time. My old coworker works here too." I thought it was weird, but nothing too strange yet. Then he would show up more and more coincidentally and buy me lunch. I told him not to do that anymore. He said he just wants to thank me for always taking the time out to talk to him. I told him it's fine and not to worry about it. I'll never forget the day I saw him running down all the aisles looking for me as I was about to leave the store. I quickly ran to the back. I ran all the way through the meat department ducking so he wouldn't see me through the double doors. When I decided to book it, I felt fast footsteps and a tap on the back of my shoulder. To my horror, it was him asking me if I wanted to go out to eat. I said no, I have a boyfriend. People started walking over because we made quite a scene. He left me alone. The next day I went back to the store we both worked at. He handed me a note. I told him I'm not reading it and I don't want to talk to him. I eventually read it, and it was a handwritten note apologizing for coming off too strongly as a friend, and how I'm the only person who asks about his day when people would ignore him. I felt kind of bad. For the next few months we would work together, but I'd ignore him. He backed off for a bit, but this dude did some research or something. He found out the school that I went to, what I majored in, and he signed himself to go back to school. This dude was like 33 at the time, with 3 degrees in business, computer science, and a CNA certificate. He definitely didn't need another one. He asked me how I liked the biology program at my specific college. I was like, "It's good. I recommend it." This was the first time we spoken in months, and I thought he genuinely wanted information on that particular program I was in. He began taking classes at my school. When you register for a course in the beginning of the semester, there's an app that tells you how many students in your class and who your classmates will be. At work, he would be like, "Are you going to microbiology?" Luckily, this class was offered at 2 different time slots on different campuses, and I always went to the one in the evening due to my schedule. He had a lot of classes to catch up on since I was already a year in, and he told me he wanted to graduate with me. We never crossed paths on campus, but he started befriending my classmates in the program and would ask about me. Well, I chose not to walk the day we graduated. I quit that job and got a job in my field, and he's still at the same grocery store. To this day, he will message me every holiday and on my birthday on Facebook. I found out later I wasn't the only girl he did this to. Hey guys, Dark Narrator here, and thank you guys so much for watching this video. Sorry it's been a little bit since I posted. I'm very inconsistent as I've seen, and I don't want to be. It's not like I don't have ideas for videos. It's just actually, fleshing them out and then getting it done is what the hardest part is, I guess. And I've just been really stressed out and anxiety-filled to the brim lately, and I don't know. I just haven't really had the motivation, I guess, but I want to do them, and I really enjoy making videos, and I really enjoyed making this one as always. Yeah, I'm just sorry that I haven't been as consistent as I want to be, but I hope that changes soon. Anyways, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to support the channel more than just liking and subscribing, why don't you check down in the description. My merch will be down there, and my Patreon. You don't have to. I'm just saying it's down there if you want to further, support me in a different way other than liking and subscribing. But liking and subscribing also really, really helps. Please like this video if you did enjoy it. Comment down below on what you want to see next. Subscribe if you want to see more. Hit that little bell next to the subscribe button so that you can get notified every single time I post, and I will see you guys next time for another video.